It all came crashing down on a night that was supposed to be ordinary. The family had gathered, laughter filled the air, and I tried to convince myself that I was imagining the distance between me and the people closest to me. But truth has a way of tearing through denial when you least expect it. My brother arrived later than everyone else, stumbling in with a smell of alcohol clinging to him. His pockets heavy with cash that I knew could not possibly be his. He spoke loudly, boasting about deals he never made, money he never earned, and people he impressed with things that weren't his to give. It was the same reckless energy I had seen for years, but this time it felt unbearable. As the evening went on, his careless words grew sharper. He bragged about how lucky he was, how he always had someone to pull him out of trouble, how not everyone understood him but someone always did. My wife sat across from him, her face shifting between pride and nervousness, and that was when the silence of the room became deafening. Others avoided eye contact, yet I could see in their faces that they knew. They had seen the way she leaned toward him, the way she shielded him, the way their connection crossed the line long before this moment. The comment that shattered everything came from someone who thought they were being playful. They laughed and said my brother was fortunate to have such a supportive sister-in-law, someone who stood by him no matter what. The words hung in the air, turning laughter into stillness. My chest tightened, my hands trembled, and in that silence, I realized it was no longer suspicion. It was exposure. What had been whispered in corners, hidden behind excuses and secrecy, was now laid bare in front of everyone. I couldn't stop myself. The anger I had swallowed for months, the doubts I had buried, the humiliation I had endured, all of it erupted. I demanded answers, not in private but right there in front of everyone. My wife froze, her lips parting but no words coming out. My brother tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked under the weight of the truth. He avoided my eyes, his arrogance dissolving into shame, and that was all I needed to see. No one in the room dared to move. They didn't have to. The truth had already spoken louder than anything else. In that moment, betrayal didn't feel like something whispered in the dark. It felt like a performance in the open, a cruel play staged before an unwilling audience. The wrong things had happened where they could no longer be denied, and the illusion of loyalty was torn apart for everyone to witness. I had always believed I could carry the weight of responsibility, that I could make enough sacrifices to hold my family together. But what shattered me was not the limit of what I could earn, it was the limit of what I could forgive. And as I looked at the two people who had broken the very foundation of trust, I understood there was no going back. The changes began quietly, so subtle that anyone else might have ignored them. But I have always paid attention to details, and the details didn't add up anymore. My wife's phone, once left casually on the counter, now stayed locked and guarded. She spent long stretches in another room, her voice lowered, her words carefully chosen. When I asked who she was talking to, the answer was always simple. Family, friends, errands. I wanted to believe her, so I did. Yet somewhere inside, doubt gnawed at me. I noticed how often her errands lined up with my brother's needs. He was forever in some sort of trouble. Late payments, fights with friends, excuses about being misunderstood. And she seemed eager to jump in, to explain him away, to soften his failures as if they were temporary. When I pointed out how much money I had already spent bailing him out, she snapped back in his defense, her voice sharp, her loyalty misdirected. It wasn't the words alone but the way she looked at me, as though I were the villain for holding him accountable. That gaze cut deeper than her tone, leaving me silent even when I wanted to argue. At gatherings, I grew increasingly uncomfortable. My brother would lean in close to her, whispering things that made her laugh in ways she hadn't with me for months. The others saw it, though most turned their eyes away. I could feel their silence pressing against me like a weight. It wasn't jealousy that ate at me, it was humiliation. To be made a fool of not in private but in plain sight, where everyone could watch and no one would say the truth aloud. I found myself forcing smiles, pretending everything was normal, because admitting otherwise would mean tearing apart the illusion of family I had built for so long. One night, while going through my accounts, I noticed something even harder to ignore. Money was missing, small amounts at first, then larger. Transfers made without my knowledge. When I confronted her, she was ready with explanations, saying my brother had needed help and she couldn't stand by while I was being cold. The anger I felt then was unlike anything I had known. Not because of the money itself, but because she had made a choice. She had chosen him over me, justifying it as compassion while disguising what it truly was, betrayal wrapped in kindness. I began to wonder how much I had missed, how many signs I had brushed aside in the name of loyalty. Every late return, every sudden phone call, every unexplained smile when she thought I wasn't watching, it all replayed in my mind like a puzzle I was too blind to solve earlier. I told myself to be patient, to gather proof, to not rush into accusations without certainty. But the certainty was already there, plain as day. I just hadn't wanted to face it. I thought about the saying I had always repeated to myself, that there's a limit to what a man can earn before it breaks him. Yet as I sat there, staring at the betrayal unfolding through numbers and glances, I realized the greater truth. There's also a limit to what a man can ignore. And I was standing dangerously close to mine.